I want to call to order the meeting of the June 18th, 2024 Lansing Charter Commission. I want to welcome everybody here. Would the Deputy Clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Adam Simon.
Present.
Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Bauer.
Here.
Commissioner Boyd. Here. Commissioner Dowd. Commissioner Jeffries.
Here.
Commissioner Lopez. Commissioner Kawhi.
Present.
Commissioner Washington. Here. There are 7 present, a quorum. Commissioners Dowd and Lopez are absent.
At this point, I would just like the clerk, or deputy clerk, to note in the minutes that the absence for Commissioner Lopez is an excused absence. He did contact me last week indicating that he's on a conference, on a state educational conference, which he signed up for prior to the election under Robert's rules. So long as that notice is given, it's mandatory excused absence. So if that could show in the record. And
Thank you.
I've not heard anything about Commissioner Dowd, and so hopefully he'll show shortly.
Okay, moving forward, we'll go to adopting the agenda.
Motion be in order to adopt the agenda. Councilmember Bauer moved. It was supported by Commissioner Cowie. Before we move on, I would like to, if there's no objection, amend the agenda to add under unfinished business D would be legal counsel RFP. We've got some updates on that. I just want to make sure everybody's up to speed on that. So if there's no objection, we would amend the agenda by adding that subsection.
So moved.
No objection, we're good.
No objection.
Okay, thank you. So on the amended agenda, is there any questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously.
All right, we'll move forward to public comment. Up first, we have Nicholas Zandy.
Hello there. This is Nicholas Zandy, now officially president of the Old Everett Neighborhood Association. I want to speak on unfinished business 6, specifically B and C. Specifically on C, stakeholder presentations. Why would you need to have stakeholders at this time? This is a constitutional convention, not a business meeting. Like, the only business you should be doing is amend parts of the charter you think are outdated or what the community thinks are outdated. That's literally the only job that the Charter Commission really has. And also, B, proposed charter review process. That's the one thing you should be doing. Again, that's literally what the job is of a charter commission, is to review and change the charter wherever they think is outdated or if they think that a certain bylaw is stupid or something like that. Excuse my language if you find that offensive. And there are many things on the charter that absolutely do need to be reviewed, like the way our council is structured. Having half at large is absolutely terrible. It's very poor representation. We should definitely increase the number of wards. 8 or 9 would definitely be an improvement. And if we end up doing 9 wards, well, my neighborhood could actually, the Old Everett neighborhood could actually act as a ward in its own right if we actually end up doing more wards. Specifically that number. And also, again, the whole thing with stakeholders, again, is just like, why do you need stakeholders when you're just reviewing and changing the charter? Again, that's literally your only job. This is not really a business-oriented corporate meeting. This is a citywide equivalent of a constitutional convention. I mean, did the Founding Fathers really talk much about the finances of the nation when talking about the Constitution? Not really. Most of their job was just discussing what should go in the Constitution and how should the Constitution be amended, and which is how the Bill of Rights became a thing. It wasn't a bill based on fiscal matters. It was literally a bill based on individual and civil liberties and rights, like the right to free speech or something like that, or the right to a fair trial. Not a lot of those had anything to do with money, so why would you need to have a stakeholder presentation plan at a meeting like this? This is all I need to say, and I shall yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. Next will be Julie Vanderboom. Oops.
Hi there, Julie Vandenboom, First Ward. I would like to respectfully ask that the members of the Charter Commission please take their roles as representatives of the public seriously. You all wanted the job, you were elected to the job, now I would like to see you do the job. In the last meeting, I was disappointed to hear one of the commissioners admit that they didn't carefully read all 19 pages of the RFP about the attorney, that they just skimmed it. I hope that folks that were running for this position knew that reviewing documentation was going to be part of this job, and I hope that you will do the job. I was even more disappointed to hear from a commissioner who said that they were not familiar with neighborhood meetings and what time they meet. If you were taking this job seriously, you would have some idea. If you were taking this job seriously, you might even have attended some of those meetings prior to the election or after the election. We heard that same commissioner tell us plain as day that college football is a higher priority than seeking input from Lansing residents. The elitism I've heard from this commission, both on and off the record, has been mind-blowing. Lansing belongs to all of us, and not just to the folks from the Moores River Drive neighborhood. Please, folks, do your job. Finally, speaking to the question of stakeholder input, I'd like to suggest that the commission proactively reach out to the following organizations. This is not an exhaustive list. The Churchill Downs Neighborhood Organization, Lansing Eaton Neighborhood Organization, the Cristo Rey Community Center, the voters in the Baker Denora and Potter Walsh neighborhoods. Please talk to folks at the Refugee Development Center, the Lansing Empowerment Network, the Northwest Initiative, the Fledge, Allen Neighborhood Center, the Women's Center of Greater Lansing, the Capital Area Disability Network, the West Side Neighborhood Organization, the East Side Neighborhood Organization, the Place for Us Coalition, Capital Area Friends of the Environment, the Salas Center, Lansing chapter of Nation Outside, and the folks at the Rent is Too Damn High. I'm sure I've missed somebody, but all of these folks have thoughts about what is working in Lansing and what we need to change. Please go to them and get their input. Don't make them come to you. Not everybody is comfortable coming through a metal detector. Not everybody is comfortable going through security and coming into a city hall type of a building. You need to go to them, please. I just implore you all to do this job right and involve the residents of Lansing to the best of your abilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Heath Lowry.
Good evening. As was stated, my name is Heath Lowry. I'm a resident of the West Side neighborhood, and I'm president of the West Side Neighborhood Association. I'm here to speak very briefly about the community meeting plan. I think this commission should really consider the schedules of these neighborhoods, organizations that already exist, and maybe using the neighborhood organizations through a partnership to drive engagement to these listening sessions, but not necessarily take the time of the community meetings themselves. I know for one, the West Side Neighborhood Association, we have a community event planned for the proposed date to come to us. I know it's not set in stone, but that would be a major conflict for us. Yes, we have our community picnic and resource fair on that same day, on the 24th of July. And I just wanted to make sure that these sorts of things are taken into consideration when partnering with neighborhood organizations to make sure that people are heard in these different parts of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ryan Cost.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to read into the record the letter that I had sent each one of you. I didn't get some responses. Dear Commissioners, as a resident of Lansing's East Side, I have found it my civic duty to come to your meetings, research past charter commissions, and read other cities' charters. I will remain mute on what I believe needs to be changed, which is not my role. I would like to express my deep concern that the commission valued the input of the people of Lansing at 3 minutes of comment before anything is debated, while hearing that the Chamber of Commerce, faith groups, labor, and others who don't live at the city are going to get a proposed 10 to 20 minutes. Respectfully, that's bullshit. You know it, and I know it. If you look back to the last charter commission we had in the 70s, those are the same. Those groups are the same ones that were involved in making this broken charter that we have now. I have no reason to believe that their input will be any different this time. This document does not govern these groups, but it does govern the residents of Lansing and how our local government is run. I ask that you extend public comment period to 5 minutes, add a public comment at the end so people have a chance to comment on what was just discussed, and open the meeting to virtual participation. I am aware that you are already set up to use the same virtual system for online public comment that the City Council uses. I respectfully remind you that we, the people of Lansing, voted for change, not just a few words and grammar fixes. I would also like to bring up in the packet the question of time shall be allowed by a majority vote, more time. That in Robert's rules, it is mute on public comment. What it does say is a 2/3 majority can extend time. But how is that fair or equitable if you're picking winners and losers of who you would like to hear from and who you wouldn't? In the same breath, I see that the draft you have for fact-finding says if you anticipate your statements will take longer than 3 minutes, we encourage you to request to present by reaching out to Chair Jeffries. That is completely different from the previous document. It makes no sense. It's total chaos. So I would hope that somehow the public comment is cleaned up, and certainly these groups can have 3 minutes right here like the rest of us. They don't deserve any more time. They've already messed the city up enough. Further, I saw this proposed charter review process. We're not going to start drafting until November. We are going to run the clock out on this on purpose, and the citizens of Lansing will not forget that. That is sad. Finally, I just want to mention in this proposed Facebook policy, comments will or will not be turned off on this page. Lynn Key versus Freed, First Amendment right. You cannot turn off comments on public media, Facebook. It is against the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Melissa Horst.
Hello, my name's Melissa Horst. I see a couple of familiar faces. I'm a resident of the East Side in the Second Ward. And granted, I missed the last meeting, but I did hear the first meeting, and I was pretty heartened to hear just some interest in how do we increase public participation? Like, where do we go? You know, who do we meet with? How do we engage people more? And then also an interest in what other cities are doing. And it just so happens that I know a guy who wrote a book about that. So one of my favorite professors in grad school at Syracuse University was Tina Nabachi. And she wrote this amazing book, Public Participation for 21st Century Democracy, with her co-author, Matt Leiniger. And Matt just so happens to be, I bumped into him at a conference a couple of years ago, and he's the director at the Center for Democracy at the National Civic League. You know, it's an organization that was founded by, Louis Brandeis and Teddy Roosevelt, so it's been around for a bit. But this is essentially what Matt does. And at the Center for Democracy, they work with municipalities to improve small d democracy. And small d, because oftentimes we get lost in the electoral politics of things. But what you all are doing today and over the next couple months and the next 2 years, you are working on small d democracy, right? This is our city's constitution, which is so stinking cool. trying not to swear, so stinking. I just was hanging out with my 8-year-old godson, so I've been able to clean up my language because I'm sure there's another S or another word I could have slipped in there. But anywho, small d democracy, because how do we engage the public more effectively in decision-making processes? Because this is really about revitalizing our democracy, right? Like, there's a really awesome opportunity here. Also, the Center for Democracy at the National Civic League works with cities who are in the process of doing charter revisions. So I did, reach out to Matt, just touch base with him, let him know what we're doing in Lansing, and would be happy to make that connection with him. I think inviting a speaker like Matt, who brings to the table years of expertise in the topic, would just be helpful, just even to sort of give maybe a foundation of knowledge as you all charter forth with this commission. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next is Nora Bauer.
Hi, y'all. I'm Norma from the Second Ward, and I apologize for being late because I lost my key in my latest health emergency. But anyway, I have already shared with you stuff in your emails, and I got one response which tells me that some of you are just think that the city of Lansing voters are just hunky-dory with everything that's going on. And it's okay to have a charter that was written long before social media. There was a different world then. It really was. And I know it's been changed since then. But if you're thinking that, well, Lansing's a Democratic city and the Democrats are progressive and that would be good, well, think again, okay? Because this city charter, this city administration, I should say, run by a Democrat and his appointed city attorney and our elected city clerk, who's also a leading Democrat, they've kind of taken charge. So the chairman doesn't create the agendas, and it's city employees who have to be paid to run the microphones and the nameplates and timekeepers and everything else, minutes. And that's a lot of pay and benefits and so on. But this administration likes the Michigan League for Public Policy. And the Michigan League for Public Policy likes the National Civic League's model city charter. The model city charter is in its 9th edition, and that's the way the vast majority of units of government in Michigan choose to operate, with a city manager form of government. Now, there's a lot of them, and one of them would be the one where there's a politician who does the PR stuff, but the city manager is completely politically neutral, and he just takes care of problems because he or she understands about how to solve parking problems and millages in a city that occupies 3 different counties and tax increment financing, and a lot of things that politicians don't know. So I have remarks that I'm not going to try reading into the minutes, but the city council, I think, are elected representatives, and they made it very clear that you're not wanted here in City Hall. And good for them, because you are an independent commission, as I understand it, under home rule, and you can make the decisions, and you don't have to meet here. I'm told that Jerry Norris would be happy to make the pledge available to you if you ask him, if Brian Jeffries speaks on your behalf. So I want you to consider that, and here's a copy of my more detailed comments if you want to give them. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Next is Fred McLaughlin.
I think this works, yeah? Okay. My name is Fred McLaughlin. I live on the southwest side of Lansing. And I wanted to speak to a couple of issues that it sounds like are the things that people are talking about tonight, which is basically accessibility to the process. I have to admit, I was having the same thoughts as came up at the last meeting relative to the notion of stakeholders. It has struck me that the people who are the stakeholders in Lansing are all the registered voters. And one way to get in touch with all of those stakeholders and to get them to get in, to give useful input would be to send out notices to all registered voters in the city. That would take care of, as far as I'm concerned, all the stakeholders. Also, newspaper notices, notices at the city's website, things that would be universally available and completely public and easy to find. Also, I think there's a need for some kind of a working discussion format. You need to have some sort of a, I don't know if it's a subcommittee or what it would be called, but something where there can be more than a 3-minute soundbite. And that's what this amounts to. It's a very one-sided conversation. It really doesn't get into the depth of anything. And like myself, everybody's trying to cram stuff in the last 1 minute and 23 seconds. And it's not a useful format for a serious discussion of a serious issue. The other thing I'd like to float out is, this is probably not going to sit well with a number of people, but I'm not a particular believer that the city has a particularly useful role in economic development, and I realize that's a primary role in the form-based ordinance right now serving as zoning, and but I like the notion that the originator of, or at least the best early summary of capitalism, Adam Smith, really liked the idea of the city having no role other than making sure that whatever business did, that government made sure that it was served the health, safety, and well-being of the community, that it didn't do anything beyond that. Business could either come or go on its own efforts, but that was it. And he also believed in free or incredibly affordable education. He believed that if poverty was happening, the government had a proper role in righting that. And in fact, he left his entire estate to the poor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Omar. If you could state your first and last name for the minutes, that would be great. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Farhan Sheikh Umar. I just came back from the Board of Police Commission's meeting at Foster tonight, and I am truly disgusted with what I saw. Let me see, what's her name? Ms. Abrams, who is the commission investigator, she disclosed that 7 community members filed a complaint against police officers, and the cases were closed. So I waited until it was public comments. I said, well, what happened? What'd you guys do with those complaints? We can't tell you. Who filed it? We can't tell you. Was it a black person, Hispanic person, Asian person, white person? Can't tell you. Male, female? Can't tell you. So what is the purpose of having that kind of commission if the public cannot get that kind of information? It's a disservice to this community. And those are the things that I would like you guys to focus on. You know, there's a disconnect in this community when it comes to our elected officials in the community and our appointed officials in the community. If somebody who's a civilian who was appointed to that position can act like that, what should I expect from our elected officials? There is no transparency in this city. There is no accountability in this city. And that's why we, the people, have decided to open the city charter so that we can get that transparency and that accountability. So I would like you guys to, we don't have that much time. You know, we've wasted a lot of time. And so my advice to you guys is to listen, to understand, and not to reply. because lately that is what we've been getting from most of you guys here is just a bunch of talking back and forth, which doesn't accomplish anything. You know, there's a lot at stake in this, 2 years that you guys have, a year and a half. And so we got work to do. We got a lot of work to do. You know, Lansing has a lot of potential. We have the people, we have the community. This community is strong, the potential is there. It's just that nobody has tapped into that potential. And so, you know, you guys talk about mimicking like what city council does. You're not the city council. If you guys are truly gonna do things the way city council does, then the public should be allowed to speak 2 times. Because city council, you're allowed to speak on whatever's on the agenda, and then later you're allowed to speak on whatever the city matter. You guys don't do that, which tells me that you guys are picking and choosing what the city council does. And so do it all the way, or come up with your own rules and do it your way. But either way, we voted for you guys, and I'm hoping and praying that we really see some real structural changes. Because if your intention when you ran for this position was to keep the status quo, keep things the way they are, then you are truly harming the people of this community. You are doing a disservice to this community. And 10 years from now, 20 years from now, other generations are gonna read and see what you guys did, what actions you guys took. You know, it took decades to reopen this. And so the next time we'll get another crack at this is 12 years from now. 12 years from now, that's a long time. Let's get to work. Let's work together. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no more blue sheets for public comment at this time. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Seeing none, we'll move forward to approval of the minutes.
Motion be ordered to approve the minutes. It's been moved by Commissioner Cowie. Is there a second?
Second.
And seconded by Vice Chair Simons. Is there any changes, additions, corrections to the minutes? Anyone? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes are approved.
This takes us to officer reports, starting with the chair's report.
I have just 2 items I'd like to review with the commission. First is, and I'm going to steal it from the deputy clerk here, it was the communication dealing with the public comment time, the amendment to that rule. I first received some communication from Commissioner Boyd, first and foremost throughout the week, regarding the comment time and trying to extend that, having a discussion about that, as well as from the vice chair. And so we proposed, the vice chair and myself, the proposed rule change, which under our rules require a notice, a 7-day notice be given to council of that change, which we did. I sent it to the clerk, and it will be posted or dealt with as new business under our next agenda, our next meeting, which will be July 2nd. That's the earliest we could get to it. It's just a starting point. It provides for speaking time in the beginning, speaking time at the end, 3 minutes in the beginning, 2 minutes at the end of the meeting for the public to comment, and we'll just take it from there. And as to items on the agenda, as we started this process, we talked about getting the proposed amendments to me by 5 o'clock on the Thursday before the commission meeting. We have found that really kind of tightens up things in terms of getting the agenda together on time. Emery did a phenomenal job in getting the agenda for this together, this meeting, with all the attachments and everything at a very kind of last minute thing. So we're going to move that to Wednesday. So the Wednesday before the meeting, if you have any items for the agenda, if you can get them to me, we can then try to get those on the agenda. We did have Commissioner Anderson reach out with 3 proposed items for the agenda. 2 will fit under the agenda that we have now. The other was proposing to add language to our rules that, in fact, I'll just read it. was to consider incorporating attendance and absence expectations for commission members. We had a discussion about that. We would not be able to make the 7 days notice on that as well. So she will be putting that language together and hopefully get it to me by Monday of next week so we can meet the 7-day notice, and then that will also be added as new business under the agenda for our next meeting. So those are the items that I've had, or I have.
Thank you. Vice Chair.
Good evening, fellow citizens and fellow commissioners. I don't have a report tonight. I have more of a statement. Doing a little research, I discovered that there are 3 generations on this commission. So what could possibly go wrong? Everything. We have different work styles, we have different work ethics, values, cultural backgrounds, and we have different lived experiences. So we're gonna have to learn to work together and grow together because we have a very limited time to do this very critical work. So I ask that moving forward, that we show each other respect, we show the citizens of Lansing respect, and we really show each other grace. Thank you.
Thank you. For the clerk's report, it's pretty short this week. The chair has already covered about the rule change. Obviously, you're already aware of the written communications that are now showing up in your packets. The one thing we would like to touch on is we still are looking for a number of your bios and headshots. So please, at your earliest convenience, get those out of the way and send them over to Emery. Thank you. And this will bring us to unfinished business, starting with the community meeting plan.
Okay, so last week we had a discussion about this, rather long discussion, got into the weeds quite a bit. What we did over the last couple of weeks was to put 2 plans together regarding the community meetings. And what we heard, the takeaway from the meeting was that we were looking at doing 4 community meetings, going out to the public, 1 meeting in each ward. We wanted to do 3 of them on a Wednesday night and maybe 1 on a Saturday. So we sat down, worked through that a little bit, and came up with Plan A, which is a draft, and it puts forward, the first Wednesday of a month for the East Side Neighborhood Organization. It identifies the neighborhood organization where we could possibly have them, and it sets forth the night. And at the bottom of that, you'll see what those proposed meeting dates could be. Again, this was put together without checking anyone's calendar. And I think what we're going to do, because I've heard tonight that some folks can't make any of these meetings, we're going to send out a Google Calendar, ask everyone to put available dates on that to see if we can kind of tighten that up and get everybody together. The purpose of these meetings is going to be a listening session. It's the only item that will be on our agenda. There will be no action items. We want to go out there and try to get as many people as we can from the community. We're going to try to kind of organize this with a neighborhood organization that would be in that ward that would be open to hosting us as part of one of their meetings. We're not here to try to usurp that meeting, but trying, with all the dates and conflicts that we have, that's one thing that we're going to be looking at. The Plan B is if we can't do Plan A, we can on our own go out to some city buildings like Foster, Letts, Schmidt, and create our own meeting dates and times at those facilities and do the invite from there to have folks come in. We've got a couple of fire stations that are available that we can schedule meetings at most any time. So that's what we have in place now. I'd like to hear your comments regarding this. Commissioner Cowie?
I just had a question on, and I did read the proposals that you put out. You're saying that Plan A or B didn't work for any of us, but are we trying to get everybody or just the majority? Because we know things come up, summer plans, vacations, stuff that was planned prior to us being on the commission. So if we could get majority of those, then also were you looking at for us to take a vote on option A or option B today, or just what were you doing?
That's up to the commission, whatever it wants to do. Plan B was more of kind of like the fallback position that if A didn't work, Plan B gives us a lot more flexibility in terms of looking at some dates. Again, I think Plan A meets what we talked about last time. But again, there were some concerns with conflicts, and we're going to have to work through those. It could be, it may very well mean that, we're not going to be able to accommodate everybody's schedule.
Right.
So, I mean, I'd like to hear conflict. I mean, if there's a conflict in terms of dates, what does that mean for folks? How are we going to do? Commissioner
Well,
Bauer? Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Any further-
and again, I don't know if everyone had a chance to look at it and review it in full. I was going to make the motion to adopt Plan A. Again, I also had some conflicts, but I try to move some stuff around. I thought that was feasible, knowing that everybody's not going to be able to attend every meeting. So.
Commissioner Bauer?
I was just going to add, I don't think we can we shouldn't, we need to move forward. There's no way that we'll get everybody at any meeting with people's schedules. So I would just hope that we would get something on the books so that we can get the public informed and move forward. Obviously, if nobody can come or not a majority, then we need to look at that. But also, we heard tonight that the July 24th for the 4th Ward is not a good day, I believe. So that would be the only thing to take a look, maybe work with the West Side Neighborhood President who's here and see if there's a better date to do that one.
Okay. I have Commissioner Boyd.
I guess I'd like to echo what everybody else has said, and I think Commissioner Washington said it last time. Everybody's not going to be able to attend every meeting. I cannot attend any of these meetings. I have things planned that were planned long before the election. They involve other people. I just can't pull them down. It doesn't matter to me. I am more concerned on July 24th. I'm having a memorial mass said for my late husband, so I have to go to that mass. I want to go to that mass. I'm more concerned that the West Side Neighborhood Association has an event that evening. So I would say what I said the last time. Everyone who's putting this calendar together needs to look at the big picture. What else is going on in the community? We found out tonight that the West Side Neighborhood Association has an event on July 24th. We don't know what the East Side Neighborhood Association has planned, if anything. So we simply need to have more information. Thank you.
Yeah, well, just to respond to that, the intent was, and I'll get to Ms. Drever here in just a second, was to reach out to these organizations that may have already occurred and to see it has not. Go ahead.
Yeah, as a point of information, if the board would like to make a motion to reach out to community organizations to start coordinating those meetings, we could make that happen. The clerk's office has not taken that action on behalf of the board because they haven't made a motion to do so. So that's why this is a proposed schedule. This is looking at okay, East Side meets first Wednesday of the month. Here's a first Wednesday of the month coming up, but that communication hasn't started because the board hasn't taken any action. If the board takes action, we can roll forward, but I can't invite the commission to neighborhood organizations on behalf of the commission without the action.
I thought we were going to reach out just to see if it's feasible, but, so, Vice Chair Snyder.
No, go ahead.
Commissioner Washington.
Thank you. I'm going to reiterate, listening sessions are not mandatory meetings. They are listening sessions. These are the meetings we are expected absolutely to be at unless there's a huge conflict. But having said that, I'm glad that the West Side Neighborhood Association said something, but let us not forget that these 4 wards are huge. It doesn't incorporate just the little bit on the east side around Michigan Avenue. The 1st ward is enormous. The 2nd ward, the 3rd ward, the 4th ward. So, if you're only going to communicate with a very, very small constituency of an entire ward, I think that's going to be problematic, and you're not going to find a day that fits for the entire ward ever. I would say it was brought up, take it into consideration, but the 4th ward is enormous, and just set the dates. People can either make it or they can't. But to beat this horse on and on and on, we have really important business to get to, and I really hate for us to waste this much time on things like this.
Well, we're trying to get it done. What this is going to do in terms of the reach out to the stakeholders, Later on in the agenda, what we have is the stakeholders presentation plan. There was a card there that we were going to mail out, and that card is going to go to over 48,000 people. These are households in the city that have at least one registered voter in it. The stakeholders are the people. That's who we're sending it out to. And that card was to announce these meetings. So we're trying to get as much information out. We're just trying to find a location in the ward where we can have those meetings, and then at the same time do the reach out in terms of the mailers and notifications to folks. So, Commissioner Kwawi.
Just, excuse me. And again, I appreciate everybody's input on that. Just wanted to make sure, I did put a motion on the floor, but I'd like to amend that motion to us, if we are to accept Proposal A, once the clerk's office can find out if those days actually work. But at least we do and will have a plan put in play once that motion, and then they can do their due diligence.
So that's your
in
motion.
following it. Yeah, my motion is to still accept Plan A
Okay.
with the guidance of the clerk to find out if those dates truly work for those communities.
Well, what we could do is let's look at those dates, and if the location doesn't work, I mean, maybe we could look at a different one, or maybe there's a different first Wednesday of a month that might work. But yeah, let's do that. I thought we were reaching out to them just to test to see what was available at that time. Right, I understand. Understood that. So is there any question on the motion to accept Plan A? Any? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes with Commissioner Boyd voting no. Next item.
All right, next we are on to the proposed charter review process.
We have two items in the packet that talks about the review process. The first, the proposed process itself with the outline of the time periods that are going to get us to hopefully our first vote, which would be November 2025, is a timeline that mirrors what the MML recommended in terms of its timeline, draft final, or the process timeline. In the first, from May through November, we'd do fact-finding. Beginning in November, there'd be an overlap. We'd be doing some drafting, starting our drafting at that point. That will go all the way through probably June or July. It looks like August here, but I don't think we'll get that far. There will be, throughout the entire time, public education effort that we'll be making, and this will be the fact-finding that we're going to continue throughout the process, even though we'll be doing other things at the same time. And as you can see on the bottom, there's we still have to hire the attorney, and it looks, I think in July, what the goal is to get it to the Attorney General. It's going to take a couple of months there, and we need the additional time from about, I think, by September to have the language drafted and approved and the ballot language put together so we can get it on the ballot for the November 2025 election. This is a very tight time frame, but this is our first effort. As you know, we have 3 attempts that we can make, so this will be our first attempt, but we conclude everything on 26th of November. So again, it's very, very short. You will see also, so I guess in terms of moving this forward, is there a motion to approve this process in terms of the timeline that's been outlined? Anyone? Commissioner Washington.
Oh, I just have a question.
Sure.
Brian, who came up with this timeline?
I did.
Is this how we're going to do things? Is things will just be brought to us and we say yay or nay?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
The things that are
Excuse
coming
me, I
to
think
us.
there has to be a motion for a discussion.
Yeah, so I'll entertain the motion.
Anyone wants to bring a motion? Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Boyd, supported by Commissioner Kwawi.
Okay. My question is this. I'm not opposed to this timeline. My question is this. We're getting the rules, we're getting the timeline, we're getting everything. Is this how it's going to be? You're going to do all of this, and then it just will come before us at the meeting.
I'm just putting a proposal together.
I know.
That's all I'm doing.
I know.
And if you don't, if you're opposed to it,
I didn't
or if you
say
have
I
a better
wasn't.
idea, please put it forward. I mean, we have three things that we have to do. We have to
Mm-hmm.
fact find, and that's what we're starting out trying to do. Then we have to draft.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to, throughout the entire time, we're going to try to be educating the public, listening to them, getting their issues
understand
and all that stuff. And this is just an outline, so we make sure that we're staying on time to get this.
And I appreciate that, and I said, I'm not opposed to this. I think I'm not making myself clear, and we can have the discussion later, okay? Thank you.
All right. Okay.
And just for clarity, I understand what Commissioner Washington is saying, but how would you propose? Because in these meetings, we have to conduct these meetings. We can't have meetings outside this meeting. So there's no time to say, oh, let's come together and map out a schedule. We don't have that option.
Commissioner Washington.
I think there are ways we could do it, and we can have that discussion later.
Okay. So on the motion, is there any other discussion? Commissioner Anderson?
I think earlier somebody mentioned it in public comment, so I just wanted to raise that again, is it might be advantageous to start drafting a little bit sooner than November, especially, I mean, you mentioned that it's a tight timeline, and so just to give us a little bit more room. Yeah, so I would just like to suggest possibly moving it up to September or October at least.
Well, we can do that, but you'll see in the next item that we have, what we're going to do is start at our next meeting, looking at the charter, going through one article each meeting to try to get some focus from this commission on what are the issues that we're really going to, really put our eyes on and what it is we want to get accomplished. And we're also trying to we're waiting a little bit to get our attorney on board. Because there's going to be some questions that he or she is going to have to answer. So we're actually going to start, looking at the charter. What we're going to find, and I'm sure everybody knows this because you've all read it, is that there's a lot of overlap between the different articles. And so if you amend one, you're going to have to look at amending the other. And so I think the first run through, at least to get everybody on the same page, kind of, will make it a lot easier when we start to actually have to draft it. And some of these, when you look at the articles, they're 26 paragraphs long, 33 paragraphs in Article 7. So, I mean, it's going to be hard to even get through that, and just as a general discussion. So, I mean, if we're ready to draft earlier, we can do that. I'm not opposed to doing that. But I don't believe this process is going to be a fixed process. It will be somewhat fluid, depending on what our experiences are as we move into this, because I don't think anyone knows how this is going to move or go. So it's just, at this point, a marker that we can look at, and we can certainly change it as it goes. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask a follow-up question, just so I understand what this process will look like in real time. So we're going to go through each article per the next document, and we're just having discussion about, it's literally just discussion. So we're not moving to make it.
I believe what you're going to find is that everything is so interrelated that until you get down to the point where you're actually starting to draft, that you're going to be going back and forth, well, we got to go back and do this. And I think the walkthrough, the first time being a walkthrough without any action taken, I think will put us in a much better spot in terms of when we actually start.
Okay, thank you for that clarity.
Commissioner Cowie.
I just had a point of clarification on the proposed review process you put on here. I just think we're shortening our time if we're going to try to put that on the ballot by November of 2025. So, I mean, I don't want to see us rush because our time is already closed when I do believe we have up to, isn't it in November of 2026?
Correct.
So, time-wise, that's what I'm trying to see. Isn't that kind of
Again,
making it advantageous to us because we're shortening that time that we need to make sure it's correct and right.
this is just a target. You know, if we get to a point where we can't get our business done, we can't get it drafted, obviously, we're not going to make that deadline. And then we're going to have to extend it. I think what I have been told, there's going to be 3 dates. We can do it either at a primary, at a general, or at a special in May. So I think the date after that, I mean, that's what I've been told. We can get clarification on that. The next date after that would be in May of 2026. So.
And I just, oh, sorry,
I'll
you
go
didn't
to
call on
Commissioner
me, I'm
Bauer
sorry.
Well, and I would just like to say, I think this is a good plan because I would not be really comfortable starting drafting before we really heard from people throughout the city on each of these articles. So I think that the fact that now we had someone tonight talk about a board, the police commission, for instance. So I think we will have different people throughout our city who are going to have more interest, concerns, bring us really relevant information. So I think this makes a lot of sense to go through it. Maybe it's because I'm a former teacher, it makes me feel better to have it organized, but that topic by topic, then go back and see where we are. And I am assuming this is fluid. I mean, we can, if we get into this and we have to change the timeline because we feel it's necessary, we can certainly do that. So I think this, for me anyway, this makes me feel, at least through October, we have a good way to approach this. And that every 2 weeks we can focus on something and the people of the city who are very interested in that can come and share their thoughts.
I have Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner Cowie, and Commissioner Boyd. Oh, you did not? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I do think it is really imperative that we stick to the November 2025 goal, just because if it doesn't pass, we then have to go back to the drawing board and kind of figure out why it didn't pass, redraft, submit it all through the process all over again by November of 2026. So for me, I think I just feel comfortable being mindful of that. You know, we don't want to have like only 1 or 2 goes at it. If we need all 3 goes at it, we want to be able to take advantage of all 3 of those.
Commissioner Boyd.
I just have 2 questions. First, from a time perspective, who's doing the drafting? Are we doing the drafting? We're actually going to do the drafting, or is the clerk's office going to do the drafting? Who's going to do the drafting? That's my question.
In terms of staffing it?
Yeah,
The
I
actual
just wondered.
drafting? Good question.
When we talk about drafting, I'm just wondering who's,
I mean, in
am I
terms
doing
of-
the drafting? Because I need to know.
Yeah, well, in terms of, you know, certain provisions, I'm sure our attorney will draft it. But in terms of the generals, I mean, what I envisioned and what I've heard from other folks that have gone through this process is that we'll go through it line by line, making the adjustments on that. I don't know who will actually put together the final document, but there will then be points that, I mean, it depends. If we go to a city manager form of government, there's going to be huge changes in the charter as it exists today. Good question. We'll get an answer for you.
Okay. The second question I had is, once we make a decision, and we may like it or we may not like it, may be extensive, may not be extensive, has to go to the governor, has to be reviewed by the attorney general, then it has to go before the voters. And how does that happen? And who pays for that? Because let's say, for example, we have a chart, we make recommendations, and we're going to put them before the voters. I mean, you have to have some sort of a campaign to explain to voters what it is you're putting forth, why you're putting it forth, et cetera. Who's going to pay for that? Because that will cost a lot of money. And is that included in the $500,000 that's been set aside by council?
Yeah, that's part of our budget, and we can look at, you know, how we want to do that. But as you know, on the whole thing, there's a public education component that runs the entire
Right.
time. And that's what we're going to be used. Once we get to a point where we're done drafting, then it's going to be up to us to go out and try to make sure the public understands it and get it approved. But yeah, that's part of our budget.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Washington.
Just really quickly, like I said, I'm okay with this. I do not want to run the clock out. I want this done by November. And I think as commissioners, we were elected not just for every other week. If we have to have extra meetings, we have to have extra meetings, period, to get this done. I think it is that critical. I didn't think every other week was enough from the beginning, from out the gate. I didn't think that was enough. So I think we all need to really be ready to bite the bullet, be ready and prepared to meet more than what we are. And Chair Jeffries, I would just make one suggestion in this, that we maybe consider what we don't want to look at. I think we would be hard pressed to look at the marijuana ordinance in the charter because it comports with the state law. I think there are some things that we don't have to look at, and we should identify those just for the sake of time. And and I think the first thing we have to do is make a decision on elected or mayor or city manager, because that will drive everything.
That's a good point. Okay, so on the motion to approve this, is there any other comment or debate? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously. The next one is again, going through the city charter. This would be looking at identifying issues, and this is where, Commissioner Washington, we could take your point, and identify, those sections that we feel comfortable with and don't believe there's any need to change for whatever reason, and then those that are going to take some time. We may need to have some research done on certain pieces of it, whatever we find. But again, I think if going through this and complete it, it will set us up, I think, much better for a smoother and faster drafting process to be able to make sure we hit the date. And I think to Commissioner Washington's point about the city manager versus the strong mayor form of government, that comes up in, I think, Article 4, and so it'll be hitting us pretty quickly. So these are the dates. We're looking at every one of our meetings now from July 2nd through October 21st. At every one of those meetings, we'll be taking up in an article. We'll go through Article 1. We'll just go down the list 1 through 9. We've got 9 articles, 168 paragraphs to look at. Some of it is fairly, boilerplate. Other stuff is going to get a lot of attention. So with that, is this a process that the commission can accept and move down or move on? Is there a motion to approve? Councilmember Bauer moves. Support. Councilmember Quawi supports. Is there any discussion to that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, passes.
All right, next will be the stakeholder presentations plan.
Okay, so you have 2 documents there as well. The first has the draft. This is a draft invitation that we're proposing to send out to certain stakeholders that we think would have a specific interest in whatever we're dealing with. And the plan is to use this invitation to identify those, for example, when we go through the article dealing with city council and the legislative branch of government. I think that's Article 3. We would send this thing out possibly to council members, or either current or former council members, trying to get them to come down to the council meeting to talk about that particular article and their experiences they had. And, from the mayor's office, talking about boards and commissions, reaching out to them, but trying to tie it to the time that we take up the article that actually deals with their work with the city. Anybody can propose any kind of language or anything like that in terms of putting it into the draft invitation. And I know Commissioner Anderson had some issues that she would like to talk about.
So I know we talked about it a lot at our last meeting, but I think that this, to me, makes more sense of inviting stakeholders to come and do public comment rather than do like a specific presentation. I think that stakeholders that would come to do a presentation would be people or organizations that literally do research or have data about charters specifically, and not just organizations that have special interests in what our government looks like. And so I think if I can comment on this specific item presented or wait.
Yeah,
okay.
just interrupt.
Yeah.
We need to have a motion
Okay.
to be discussing this. So is there a motion in order to approve this draft?
Make a motion to approve this draft
Okay.
as written.
Is there support?
Support.
Been supported by Vice Chair. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So I think this draft is good. I would make a tiny tweak. I think that if we ever as a body want to extend public comment for longer than 3 minutes, it should be done for that entire meeting for anybody who's doing public comment and not specific individuals. So that would be my only tweak or recommendation, but that's it.
Okay. Commissioner Boyd.
Well, being a communications person, I always want to rewrite everything. So I may offer a redraft of the letter just to make it a little bit more personal. But aside from that, how does this letter get sent to the organizations that one of our public members mentioned this evening? All kinds of organizations in the city, from the Cristo Rey folks to the Fledge. How does this get communicated to them? Because they may have interest in what we're doing in Article 1 or 2 or 3, but they may not have had interaction with the city on those issues. So it's really a question for you.
Well, at the last meeting, there was a list that was presented to everybody, and the invitation was made to everybody here to, if you want to add to that list, please bring in, the groups that you want, who the contact information, or what the contact information is, so we could then actually interact with them directly. So again, that invitation is out there. So if you have a list of folks, please send it in.
I understand that, and I get it. I liked the list you proposed last week or the last meeting. I'm interested in the list that was presented by the public tonight. What my question is, how does this letter, how does it impact them? I mean, I can't see sending this particular letter to the Fledge. Maybe I'm missing something.
All right. Commissioner Cowie?
Just going on by what she said, I think it might be advantageous if we add this letter or application on our website so that groups like Judy Vanderbloom had read, they are able to print that off and then get it to us. So if that would be advantageous for all stakeholders if they're able to see that on our website, print it off, and then turn that in to get it to us, or to you, or the chair.
Vice Chair.
Yes, Chair Jeffries, you did mention earlier that all registered voters will be receiving this letter. So that would include everyone.
They would receive that. No, it is the other one. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Commissioner Bauer? Sorry.
I just wanted to clarify the same thing. So this would go to groups we would identify, like council, former mayors, former council members, boards, all of our boards and commissioners, and let the public know. But then the other the next page, which maybe we're doing separately, that would be the one that would go to 48,000.
Yes.
So I think it's a good balance, but I think we have to be sure that we advertise, and however we do, the articles that we'll be discussing, so that it is more than just the people we might identify that would have an interest in city attorney, for instance, or something
Sure.
like that.
So-
But I think this is a really good way to start reaching people.
So, okay, so you would want us to add to the letter the schedule that we had in terms of the commission meetings and the article review? No? Okay.
You mean to the stakeholder letter?
Yes.
Well, you could. I don't mean that.
Okay.
I just mean, I think it's a good way to approach getting broad-based information out there so people can come to a community, anybody can come to a community meeting. And I mean, the point of it is we have to publicize what we're doing so that
Yeah.
people have many ways they can find out about it. But I like the approach.
Commissioner Washington.
Thank you. I won't be supporting this. I am in favor of the 48,000 going out. I think we have to be very mindful of our budget. We've already blown through $100,000, and we've only been in this a month. So if we're talking about 4 mailers, you're looking at $60,000. We have to be mindful of our budget. 15,000 a pop. I know what it is. I just did a campaign, and you do 4, that would be 60,000. We are going to have to pay. We had to pay for the last election. We're going to have to pay for the next one. We're paying staff. We're going to pay an attorney. We must be mindful of our budget. We don't have that much left, frankly. And I am not in favor of sending special invitations to special people. Put it on our website. This is the article we're going to be reviewing this next week. And if you have somebody that you want to come down and speak, call them. There's nothing stopping any of us from calling somebody and saying, come on down. I just don't think we need to go to all of this effort to make sure special people get special notice.
Just to clarify, on the one card that we were sending out to the 48,000, that was only going to be sent one time. And so the budget would be anywhere between 12,500 and 15,000.
That's the issue. We don't know what we might do next year. I'm just saying.
Well, no, I get that. I understand. But we have to get this thing moving, and that's how. But so back to the motion on the draft. Are there any other changes, additions, any comment, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Aye. Does pass with Commissioner
I have an
Washington.
abstention.
The Vice President abstains.
Yes, I'm going to abstain this one.
Okay. It still passes.
Yes.
All right.
I'm sorry. The next item is on the card itself. We've gone over that. You have a proposed copy of what it would look like, as well as the budget attached to it. Motion would be in order to consider this, just have some discussion to begin. Is there a motion to support? Commissioner Boyd, support, or moves, is there support?
I support.
And Commissioner Bauer supports. Any discussion? Motion is to approve the draft postcard that you have before you. This will be the one that will be sent out to all of the residents that are voters in the city of Lansing, at least one card per house that has a voter in it. Again, this is going to be about 48,000 people will be hit with this, and the cost will up to $15,000. Commissioner Boyd.
I moved approval, and I think it's a good idea. I'd like my motion to say that this could be amended, because I don't think this is a final copy.
Is your mic on?
I'm sorry. I apologize. I think the idea of sending a postcard is a really good one. I'm not convinced that this is the exact language that it should include. I think there might be some additions that need to go on. I don't see here that it it talks about that 311 number. I have issues with our website and how accessible it is. So I would just say, I think sending a postcard is a good idea. I would support a motion to send it, but I would reserve right to the chair and whoever the chair deems appropriate to review this, the final copy, and to approve it. Because, again, being a communications person, I know you can't proofread these things too many times.
I think we have maybe a short window here, period of time to work with this. Why don't we table this to the next meeting? And during this time, if you have language that you want to incorporate in this, if you could send it, we'll get it incorporated, get it into this, and then we'll bring it back for consideration at our next meeting on July 2nd.
And of course, let me just say that this presumes that you will actually have your locations and times set for your community discussions.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Anderson?
I just have a quick question before we send like revisions and stuff. The bottom part of the front side where it says like meeting schedule, request form, receive meeting, I don't understand what this little bottom section is, sorry. Is it just like a list of what you can find on the website?
Yes.
Okay.
The website's right above that. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah. Those are things, if you have things you want to clean up, make clear.
Okay.
Send them to me, and we'll get it taken care of. Commissioner Brower?
And, you know, the people who are here tonight have they are very knowledgeable about the charter and the commission. Hopefully the people up here are, but I don't know if this is happening to my fellow commissioners, but I run into people all the time in the community, and they'll say, now what is this you're on again? What are you doing? They really don't have, people are busy leading their lives, going to work. So I'm just thinking those first two lines, and I am not a communications person, so I'm not going to suggest language, but we have to remember that 48,000 people getting this card, we need a couple are going to say, like, what do you think about the city charter? They don't even really know what the city charter is. Now, I know we can't do a long piece, but just giving some thought to a way that could be more, the people who receive it would have a better idea of what they would come down here to talk about. Or to community meetings, I mean.
Right.
Commissioner
Or come and learn about the city charter, anyway.
I absolutely agree with Commissioner Bauer, because it is our job to educate the public if they don't know. We can't make an assumption that people don't know. A lot of people don't know what the charter is today, even though we've had this election. So I think it would be imperative to put an explanation of what the charter is and why we're doing what we're doing, because people still don't understand.
Okay. Again, send the language.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Washington?
Thank you, and I just want to piggyback on that please, everybody do send suggestions to Chair Jeffries, because with 80% of our votes coming in absentee ballot, people are just checking anything. I mean, I can't even feel good about winning this election. People just check names. And so, we want to make sure that just because they get a ballot, they're just going to check something. We want them to be as educated as possible.
Okay, is there a motion to table? Okay, Commissioner Crowley moves to table, and Commissioner Washington supports. Any other conversation or any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes.
Moving on to new business, we will start on the Facebook page.
The agenda was amended.
There was
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's fine. We have one other item under unfinished business, D. It's regarding the legal counsel RFP. Just some quick updates. As you know, you all received copies of it when it was sent out, which was on June 5th. We had 3 weeks turnaround time. So we're expecting receipt back of all of the RFPs by the 27th, which is again before our next meeting. I wanted to have a little bit of discussion about how we're going to move forward reviewing those RFPs. I don't know how many, we've not had any numbers given to us in terms of how many have already been received. We don't know what that's going to be like at the end, if there's going to be a lot or just a few. Typically, it's not unusual to have, and in this case, it's our purchasing office here at the city that's running the RFP process, to have those folks go through and do a review and make a cut down to 3 or 4, and then send those on to the commission for review and approval. That's one thing we could do. We could all say, send them all to us and we'll do the review and make the cuts. And I don't know if you want to do it at a special meeting, if we create a subcommittee to do it, if everybody wants to participate, or we create a subcommittee to do the review. And if everybody's going to participate, we'll do it in a committee of the whole, which we could schedule before one of our regular scheduled meetings. These are some of the things that we have to take into consideration and make some decisions about. So does anybody have any ideas on how they want to process this? Commissioner Washington.
Thank you. I would be most comfortable with either having a committee of the whole where we all go over all of them, or have a subcommittee if people want to do that, and have the subcommittee bring 3 or 4 back to the committee. But I am not comfortable with having somebody that wasn't elected making that decision.
Okay. Any other comments? So do you want to do this as a committee of the whole review or as a subcommittee? Committee of the whole? Someone make a motion?
I'll make it.
Yep.
I will make a motion that we have a special meeting, committee of the whole, where we all go over the RFPs for the assistance of an attorney in this process.
I second.
Support that.
Then moved by Commissioner Washington and seconded by Vice President Simon. So the special meeting, the committee of the whole meeting will be part of a regular schedule, but we would do it before, say at 5:30 or something like that. Okay, just wanted to clarify. Commissioner Boyd?
Question, point of order. Are we under any obligation to tell the people who have put forth the RFP that we're going to do this in a public session? So like, say, Attorney A from law firm number B knows that we're going to put it out there and their price, et cetera, and discuss it. Do we need to do that or not? I'm asking.
I mean,
don't know.
it has to be done in public, and we can certainly notify them of that. I would assume that these are probably folks that have done this before and have that understanding, but certainly we would notify them, and it depends on the review. I mean, I would expect that depending on the number, that you may just want to go through and do a paper cut first before inviting everybody in. I mean, if you're going to have 10 interviews, I mean, you'll be at this for several days.
That's fine. I would just suggest as a courtesy, if somebody's name and all their details is going to be made public in a public forum, they should be notified in advance. Thank you.
What I could do is I just wanted to bring this issue to the attention of the commission tonight. We could take some action on it on the 2nd. That's going to be just a couple of days after we receive them, so we won't lose much time. But the motion, we'll vote on the motion tonight, but then the final details will work out, or at least I'll advise you on the 2nd. So on the motion, is there any? Commissioner Anderson.
And I know that we talked about everybody's schedules and not everybody being able to make it to everything, but I did just want to remind everybody that Commissioner Lopez said he couldn't be here before 6:30. So just bringing that point up as a point of reference.
Commissioner Boyd.
And I'll go back to what Commissioner Washington said at the last meeting. We're all not going to be able to be at every meeting. I may not be at any of the community sessions, so I respect that, but
We'll try to do the best we can, as we always do. So, any other comment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes.
All right, now we're on to new business and onto the Facebook page.
Okay, at our last meeting, there was a lot of discussion about creating a Facebook for the commission. We went back and put together and Emory did this, put together a proposed Facebook policy. I understand this comes from the city of Detroit, and there was a lot of review of other. Dearborn, I'm sorry. And so this is what they have. This is what we're proposing under comments about will not. I heard the comments here tonight. I don't have a problem if they do or do not post on there. But so anyway, this is the policy. You've had a chance to review it. Is there a motion to approve the policy?
I move approval.
Commissioner Boyd moves. Commissioner Cowie supports. So on the motion, is there any, Commissioner Boyd?
I do have a question. It was brought up tonight that one section of this is not legal. Can that be verified? Can somebody verify that?
We will certainly
for us?
check that out.
And
But the question is, if the council, or pardon me, if commission wants to say that will be turned on, I think that takes care of the issue. So people will be able to post a comment.
well, I like pages. I won't go into detail, but I like certain pages, and I'm not allowed to comment on them. They're informational, and I consider this to be informational so that people would be able to come to our page, if they want to come to a community meeting or whatever, and find out information. It's not really, I don't see it as an opportunity for people to comment. It's an informational page, and I like a lot of informational pages, and I'm not allowed to comment, so I don't quite understand why we can't do that.
Emory?
And again, that's a question more than anything.
I am not a lawyer. It is my understanding that the commission can either do an informational page where people on Facebook could not comment on it, or they would allow comments on their page. Once comments are allowed, there legally is not allowed to be monitoring or removal of comments due to First Amendment right. So you could establish a page where people could or could not comment on it, but you could not have somebody going in there and deleting certain types of comments.
I would support that, because I don't think we should be the Facebook police, for lack of a better word. But I don't necessarily think this is the kind of place where people need to be adding comment. There's plenty of opportunities for them to do that in other sites. This would be an informational page. It's the kind of thing that if we send out a postcard to people, I would hope that we'd put the Facebook address on there so people could go to the Facebook and find out more information. Thank you.
Commissioner Anderson and then Commissioner Cowie.
I have 3 statements/questions. First is, I think that we should allow comment. I think people being able to have discourse and conversation boosts engagement, which we want. So I'll just leave that there. Secondly, item number 4 looks like it's cut off. It says in future post creation as, and then it doesn't say anything after that. I'm assuming it's needed, but if we could clarify that. And then item 6C, while I appreciate the link to watch it live on YouTube is available, I'm still advocating for us to be able to stream live on Facebook. So those would be my questions/amendments, suggestions, things. Thanks.
Commissioner Cowie.
I'd like to make an edit to that amendment so that we do have the turn on the comments, but also on that Facebook page with the information, if they wanted a response from any comment or question that they have, that they would have to address it through our website. Or email, email or website. So if they email that way, again, we're not the ones that's policing or going through that. We might read the comments, but there was something that they would really like to get an answer or a resolution to, that they should email the commission.
Okay.
And it should say that on the Facebook page so that they know.
Okay. Commissioner Washington?
Thank you. I will only approve this if we do allow comments. I think we have to use every tool available for public input. There are a lot of people in the disabled community that this may be the only way they can make comments unless we actually allow it through Zoom and in the live streaming that council does, which I would actually advocate for, because we do have a lot of people that are housebound. for whatever reason. And I think if we're going to talk about inclusion, we have to always consider the disability community. And so I would only approve it with that. And who cares what they comment on? They have a right to comment. And I think we all have pretty thick skin, and we can take whatever they have to say.
Are there any other questions? In terms of moving forward on this, so I think we would need a motion to amend to include comments will be turned on for the page. With that, is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
That's in favor of the amendment, correct?
This is on the amendment.
Okay.
On the amendment.
Aye.
Okay, and then on the, where, Commissioner Cowie, would you want to put, I'm thinking about your language. Why don't you restate, let me see if we can put it in.
Oh, my amendment?
Yeah,
My amendment was to make it that the comments are turned on,
Yep.
but also too on that informational Facebook page, if they would like a response back to her comment, that they are to email the commission.
okay. With that, on that amendment, the amendment to amend, is there any other conversation? Good discussion, Councilmember Washington?
I just have a question. Who will be the administrator of this page?
I think right now it's proposed that it would be the clerk's office.
Okay.
Any other? Okay, on that amendment, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, and then we had a question as to the information that was cut off that one line. We'll bring that back to the July 2nd meeting. I'm sorry. What?
You could move to amend it to clarify it. I'm assuming it meant as needed, and it's a printer error.
Yeah,
Y'all could move to do whatever you want. Or we could table it to the second.
I make a motion to
Second.
clarify that is called as needed or as such.
okay. On the motion to amend the amendment that's been amended, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes. I think those are all the changes that we talked about. Or Commissioner Anderson?
I mentioned one more about possibly streaming live on Facebook for these meetings also.
You want?
On YouTube.
Yeah. So we would add,
Who do we add, who the cities?
Lansing Public Media Center.
So it's my understanding that it would be a different mechanism than we're currently using to stream on City TV and the YouTube. So I could reach out to Lansing Public Media and get back to y'all on what that would entail.
That would be great. Thank you.
all right, so with all those amendments on this policy, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it passes. Do you want to bring this back then at our next meeting to talk about, okay, let's leave that under unfinished business then on the agenda? Commissioner Anderson.
I'm sorry. I know it says that we will determine the profile and cover photo for the page. How is that determined? Will that be brought up in the next meeting, or are we just?
Yes, we could bring.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Okay.
Thanks.
Likes the control. All right, is there any other questions on this? All right.
All right.
We'll bring it back at our next meeting.
Moving forward, we're on to commissioner remarks.
Does anyone have any remarks? Commissioner Washington.
Just one, I would prefer that our remarks be up at the beginning and not at the end. But secondly, my remark is my email is not working. I actually responded to Norma and Ryan, but I think you all didn't get it because I've tried to even email myself and I'm not getting it. So the reason you didn't get my responses is an IT issue, And I apologize immensely because I know you all know I'm going to answer you. So I still have them in draft, and when I get this straightened out, I will respond. Thank you.
Any other? Commissioner Boyd.
I appreciate the fact that you mentioned that I was the one who brought up revisiting the amount of time for public comment. I know Commissioner Washington voted against the 3 minutes last time. It was the first thing on our agenda that was presented to us, I think, on our initial meeting. And I was thinking about it and hearing the comments that people made and Councilperson Ryan's letter. And so I called our chair on Sunday to say that I wanted to revisit the amount of time that people are given to talk. 3 minutes, 5 minutes makes no difference to me. So I'm perfectly willing to support that. And now I know you've come up with a compromise of 3 and 2. I've reached out to the councilman by text and by phone. I expected to come here tonight and hear the public have something to say about that because they have proposed a compromise, and I have indicated to the chair that I will support the compromise only if the public supports the compromise, the 3 and 2. And I think the commissioner, our chair, went to great lengths to get it out there so it would be on the agenda tonight. Now it's going to be tabled. I guess it's a 7-day rule instead of a 5-day rule. But I would hope that you would comment on that the next time because we're only going to revisit this once. I'm only going to revisit this once. My fellow commissioners may choose to do it at every meeting. I don't know. But I would like to revisit it once, and I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to know, do you like the compromise? Do you not like the compromise? Do you want to go to 5 minutes instead of 3 minutes? So I just encourage you to give it some thought for our next meeting. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Any other commissioner comments?
Yes.
Vice Chair.
I think it needs to be reiterated that if you want to contact us, send us a letter. We have received letters, and it was sent to our email address where when you send it to that address, it comes to everybody. So we are reading your letter, so just so you understand that. I think it's important that we need to keep informing people to send emails for public comment.
Thank you. Any other? Commissioner Cowie?
I just had a request, Judy Vanderboom, did she leave already? Wanted to know if she could send us that list of those people. So I think I do have her contact information from the elections. We did exchange information, but I'll try to get that information. And if she sends it, all of us can get a copy of that so we don't miss out.
Commissioner Boyd.
I would just like to say that those people who have sent letters to me, I have responded to you. And so if you sent a letter and you didn't get a response, let me know because I did respond to the few letters that I've received. Thank you. And I will continue to do that.
Any other comments? Hearing none, we're adjourned.